Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about Amber Heard changing her name, Harry Potter actress Evanna Lynch defending J.K. Rowling, and the insane Travis Scott incident that happened in New York City. First up, Amber Heard has changed her name. We know that she's currently enjoying some downtime with her girlfriend Bianca Butti and her daughter as she vacations across Europe. But she does not go by Amber Heard anymore. She's now using the alias Martha Jane Canary, who is more commonly known as Calamity Jane. According to Marca, the actress was last seen in Spain with her toddler Una. She reportedly used an alias for her travel arrangements, which would prevent anyone from knowing her exact whereabouts. But you might be wondering, why did she choose the name Martha Jane Canary? The choice is really interesting. Calamity Jane was known as one of the rowdiest and most adventurous women in the Old West. She was a frontierswoman and a professional scout who also appeared in Buffalo Bill Cody's Wild West show. It's not really clear why Amber chose that name in particular, but it does have a lot of history behind it. Now, we know that 2022 was a tough year for her. The cameras were focused on her every move as she went through one of Hollywood's most high-profile legal battles ever with Johnny Depp. But at the moment, it looks like she wants to stay anonymous for as long as possible. A source told People magazine that after the exhausting trial, Amber is focused on raising her daughter Una in Europe. They went on to say she spends every day with her girl. They stroll around, visit parks, and enjoy family time. Amber is a great mom. It's been 8 months since the trial that captivated the world ended, which awarded Johnny Depp $10.35 million in damages and $2 million to Amber. In December, the two of them agreed to a settlement where she would only have to pay him $1 million, which is a significant reduction from the $8.35 million that she was actually ordered to pay. In a statement, Johnny's attorney said that he would donate the money to charity, because for him, the case was never actually about the money. But ever since the trial, there's been speculation about Amber's return to Hollywood. I'm talking about the disaster that is Aquaman 2. She furiously denied reports that she was cut from the sequel. At that time, her spokesperson called the rumors inaccurate, insensitive, and slightly insane. They also insisted that she will get to keep her role as Mira. But as the film goes through post-production, we know that it hasn't been doing well at all in test screenings. In fact, some audience members have called it potentially one of the worst DCEU movies ever. An insider named Viewer Anon described the consensus of Aquaman 2 to be boring, not as good as the first, and potentially one of the worst movies ever created. And this is after it's gone through half a dozen test screenings. Another insider called Big Screen Leaks corroborated their report and said, "It brings me no joy to back him up and tell you that test screenings for this film have not been good. Really hoping one fixes this movie before December." After the dismal reactions to the movie, Warner Brothers has decided to make some major story changes. Now it looks like Jason Momoa's character will be taking on a personal Earth-based threat rather than some kind of alien force. But there might be another reason for the horrible test screenings. During the defamation trial, DC Films president Walter Hamada said in a pre-taped deposition that Amber and Jason weren't well matched as an on-screen couple. He said they didn't really have a lot of chemistry together. "I think editorially they were able to make that relationship work in the first movie, but there was a concern that it took a lot of effort to get there." Although many people were surprised that Jason was the one fighting for her to stay in the movie, because there was so much pushback against that idea. During the trial, a petition was created to get her fired from Aquaman 2, and that built up so much momentum it was hard to ignore. It reached over 5 million signatures, which made a massive statement to Warner Brothers. But even though they cut down Amber's role significantly, that obviously wasn't enough to save the movie from a crappy, uninteresting storyline. Moving on, here is something Harry Potter fans did not expect. Actress Evanna Lynch, who played Luna Lovegood in the movies, has stepped in to defend J.K. Rowling, who, as we all know, has been cancelled for her controversial gender beliefs that were seen as an attack on the transgender community. Evanna subtly showed her support for the author in 2020. In a since-deleted tweet, she wrote, "It's irresponsible to discuss such delicate topics as trans rights on Twitter, and I wish you wouldn't. That said, as a friend and admirer of Jo, I can't forget what a generous and loving person she is." Evanna made it seem like she did agree with her, but did not want to put her opinion in such a public place. Now, in an all-new interview with The Telegraph, the actress gave us her unfiltered thoughts on the controversy. She said, "I was very naive when I was dragged into that conversation. I didn't even know there were two sides. I had the view of like good and bad. I do have compassion for both sides of the argument." Although Evanna said she had great compassion for trans people and doesn't want to add to their pain, she believes it's important that JK has been amplifying the voices of detransitioners, which is when people who have already transitioned then return to living as the gender they were assigned at birth. She went on to say, "I just felt like her character has always been to advocate for the most vulnerable members of society. The problem is that there's a disagreement over who's the most vulnerable. I do wish people would just give her more grace and listen to her." Rowling came under fire in June of 2020 after she made a series of transphobic tweets. At the time, she posted a link to an article which used the phrase "people who menstruate" instead of the word "women." In response, the author wrote, "People who menstruate? I'm sure there used to be a better word for those people. Someone help me out. Wumben, Wimpund, Wumud?" At that point, she was called out on a mega scale by fans and fellow celebrities who felt that she was harming the community. Rowling then tried to defend her comments with a lengthy essay explaining her controversial views, but it didn't keep her from being cancelled on a massive scale and ousted from Hollywood. To this day, the Harry Potter actors all seem to be divided over the scandal. Some of them have outright denounced her as a TERF, like Daniel Radcliffe. He immediately wrote an open letter to fans where he stated his belief that trans women are women. He said, "Any statement to the contrary erases the identity and dignity of transgender people and goes against all advice given by professional healthcare associations, who have far more expertise on this subject matter than either Joe or I." The actor then addressed the Harry Potter fans directly and said, "I'm deeply sorry for the pain these comments have caused you." But ironically, the man who plays Voldemort has very publicly slammed the backlash against Rowling. Ralph Fiennes called it disgusting and appalling. Helena Bonham Carter, who plays Bellatrix Lestrange, also stood by him. She called the backlash horrendous and a load of bollocks. Speaking to the UK Times last year, she said, "It's been taken to the extreme, the judgmentalism of people. She's allowed her opinion. Everyone carries their own history of trauma and forms their opinions from that trauma, and you have to respect where people come from and their pain. You don't have to agree on everything. That would be insane and boring." She's not meaning it aggressively, she's just saying something out of her own experience. Although most celebrities would rather die than publicly support Rowling, there are some that have been doing it a little more subtly. In October, a trans activist asked the author, "How do you sleep at night knowing you've lost a whole audience from buying your books?" She responded by saying, "I read my most recent royalty checks and find the pain goes away pretty quickly." That tweet was like 296,000 times, and one of those likes was from The Office star Mindy Kaling. Eventually, fans turned on her as well and demanded some accountability for who she was supporting. But a lot of people are unnerved about Rowling's lack of emotion towards this very heavy subject. After all, anything you post on the internet can have real-life harmful consequences, especially for a community that is already marginalized. But she's made it clear that she really doesn't care, even if the backlash affects her legacy. In the new podcast series called The Witch Trials of J.K. Rowling, she doubled down on her remarks and said, "What has interested me in recent years is when fans say, 'You've ruined your legacy. Oh, you could have been beloved forever, but you chose to say this. I think you could not have misunderstood me more profoundly. I never set out to upset anyone. However, I was not uncomfortable with getting off my pedestal." So at this stage, it's looking more and more unlikely that she'll ever take back her comments or apologize. And now, have you guys heard about everything that's been happening with Travis Scott? The rapper was accused of brutally attacking a sound engineer and causing $12,000 worth of damage to his equipment. All of this went down at a nightclub in Midtown Manhattan called Nebula at around 3:30 a.m. on Wednesday morning. The two men got into an argument which led Travis to become irate and punch the other man. He allegedly escalated the confrontation and hit him with a closed fist to the left side of the face. He then fled the club in an unknown vehicle. While we don't know exactly why they were fighting in the first place or what caused the conflict to escalate, an eyewitness who spoke to BuzzFeed claimed that Travis had been DJing for about 30 minutes when the fight started. Apparently, the sound guy turned the monitor down, so Travis walked over to him, got in his face and started screaming. This is when tensions boiled over and the two of them started pushing each other. In terms of the damage, a speaker and an LED screen were broken in the process, but no one was seriously hurt. The witness said, "The sound guy got the worst of it, and Travis walked away smiling and laughing. He was acting like he was in a mosh pit and got a bit carried away. It wasn't the sound guy's fault. I think Travis was just going out to F with whoever was there that night. He had a little too much rage at that moment." But even if he just wanted to let off some steam, the police are said to be taking this incident seriously. Travis has not been named as a suspect, but he and his lawyer are expected to meet with officials at the New York City Police Department Department to assist with the investigations. The rapper's spokesperson issued a statement on behalf of 4 people, who all said that the incident was blown way out of proportion and that it was all a misunderstanding. His rep told CNN that the legal counsel for Travis are actively working with authorities and remain confident that he will be vindicated once this is all said and done. His lawyer Michael Schuster said, while this is clearly a misunderstanding being blown out of proportion by clickbait and misinformation, we are actively working with the venue and law enforcement to resolve and set the record straight. We are confident our client will be cleared of any wrongdoing. Dorian Harrington, the talent booker who was on stage with Travis that night, also put out a statement saying, "This is a total misunderstanding, and what I saw on the stage doesn't reflect what I read in the news. The music and the night turned out great and everyone left peacefully." So everyone is obviously saying variations of the same thing and trying to play down the whole incident. So far, no one has addressed the allegations that Travis was the reason the fight turned physical. Regardless of who was at fault, this incident is not a good look for him, considering that he's still facing multiple lawsuits from the Astroworld tragedy. The 2021 festival in Houston saw 10 people lose their lives and dozens injured in a disastrous crowd surge. All of this was happening while Travis continued his performance. It was said that the concert continued for roughly 40 minutes after the first person was crushed. He has since denied legal liability and claimed that he was unaware of what was happening at the time or the severity of the situation. To this day, the tragedy continues to be in and out of the headlines, and some fans are still pointing fingers at him for not reacting to the chaos quick enough. Of course, he's apologized to the victims' families and offered to pay funeral costs. But it was never going to be that simple when it comes to getting out of legal trouble. So what do you guys think of this latest story? Please let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you in the next video.